I have been deciding whether or not to make this video now for a little bit. It's like a hack, but also it's like an accident, and I'm not really sure. And I thought it was a cool technique to actually get your phone photos to resemble film, or at least look a little bit different than the normal over-processed phone footage. Okay, so let's get into this thing. What you're gonna need to know first is that it's not just like a native hack. You are gonna need some third-party apps for this, specifically the Moment Pro Camera app and also an editing app of your choice. I'll be using VSCO, but you can also use like Darkroom. And also, this is the iPhone 14 Pro. This has worked for me on the iPhone 13 and the 12. First thing you're gonna wanna do is open up the Moment Pro Camera app. Here's my funny little setup here. You're gonna go to Settings and go down to Photo Settings, Raw Format, and click Raw, not ProRAW. ProRAW is great, but it also uses software and some computational photography to process the image and, you know, fix some highlights, fix some shadows. So then you're gonna take your photo, okay? Here you go. You're gonna take your photo in RAW, and in this video I have a bunch of examples of me out in the mountains with my family shooting photos. It was a ton of fun. You can see all in the camera roll here. And for whatever reason, the way the phone processes a raw photo, I'm gonna import this into VSCO, the way an editing app processes a straight raw photo is kind of what this entire hack is. It kind of messes up and crushes the photo a little bit, like crushes the shadows and makes the highlights almost blown out. I usually put on my favorite filter, FP1, bring it down a little bit. Then you have adjustment of exposure, and you can see that says raw exposure on the bottom. And that's like, technically, it looks terrible, but I think it looks sweet when you bring that down just a little bit. It's already starting to look more like film. For the sake of this image, sure, hit next. We'll save that to camera roll, but let's go back into an image I actually shot in the mountains and walk you through what I did. Let me see.
Can you show Dada?
Oh, that's a cool piece of ice. What do you have to say about that? Sweet. Big boots. Oh, that looks good.
Sit down, sit down.
All right, what's going on?
She's recording a video of herself. Watch. Can you put it back, Barry?
Okay, let's use an actual example from one of my photos I shot out in the mountains so it looks a little bit better. This shot inside works, but it's not the best. So in the Moment Pro Camera app, here is our gallery. We're gonna hit this arrow and go import to VSCO. So you can see right here on the screen, this is what an overly regularly processed iPhone image kind of looks like, where it's the software is telling the highlights to come down, balance everything, make it pretty. And that's that plastic iPhone photo look that we're all kind of used to. It just looks a little bit plain. And I could edit this up how I normally would if it wasn't shot in RAW in an editing app like VSCO, and it would look okay. But I feel like this little hack gives it that extra oomph that I wouldn't normally edit myself. So hit this check mark. Right when it imports, it looks different already. Now I'm gonna edit this photo. So what I'm gonna do is just go over to my favorites, FP1, my favorite VSCO filter, and it's already starting to look more like film. And now obviously you could have done this with a JPEG, but with this hack, it's already looking pretty good. Exposure is a big one, and you're gonna see raw exposure pop up on the bottom because again, this is a raw image. It's not ProRAW, so you can see here, you turn it up to 3 and the photo's like blown out. It's so much more sensitive, which I find interesting. So I'm gonna turn it down to like -1, and then I'm gonna go over to light, And you can save the highlights a little bit with that highlight slider, which I'll do just a touch. Shadows are good. I usually go over and do color. I'm gonna turn the saturation down a bit. Let's go negative 1.2. We're gonna turn up the temperature a little tiny bit. Tint will go tiny bit green. Effects, obviously we want to add grain, but I also like to add clarity just a little bit. 1. Grain, I usually go up to 5, and then size down to -2. That's looking pretty sweet. So again, you can kind of start playing around in your editing app of choice, but basically the whole hack is how the editing app interprets the raw, not ProRAW, the raw photo taken by the Moment Pro camera app. And again, I don't know what it's doing. It's clearly like messing up a little bit, but then in that mess up, you have these like, this like much more pleasing look to me in certain lighting conditions. And I will say in some lighting conditions, I'll show you an example in a second, it doesn't work. So shoot at your own risk. Obviously you can transfer straight that raw photo to your computer and it actually acts a little bit different. It doesn't like crush it like the phone interprets it, but let's do it with one more just so you get an idea. Clearly I import this one and it's completely blown out, but I'm gonna go to exposure and I'm just gonna kind of, there we go. I'm kind of playing around, I'm experimenting with how the editing app renders this raw photo. I haven't done like a tutorial in a while, so smash like if you're enjoying this. It's kind of a weird one. I'm just gonna save that out. I like to see it full screen. There we go, that's got some good detail to it. So that is more or less the hack. This video is really fun to make. Obviously I gotta go out in the mountains, winter's coming, and that leads me to the point, guys, I curated a holiday gift guide on the Moment site, which is linked below. So I use some accessories in this video, some of my favorite kind of everyday carry products, and you can find those linked below, and it will take you to a whole page of stuff that I've kind of picked out that I personally like. Obviously, wrist strap I'm holding right here. Super good to have a wrist strap, especially when you're shooting with a kid. You can drop your phone, kind of connect it to our case. This wrist strap also works for like point and shoot cameras. So little film cameras. The Long Weekend Monterey sling. This thing is sweet. You can wear it in dad mode on your waist, or you can wear it like a sling. One simple buckle design, which I actually really like. Then you're set. Just put your phone in here. I hope you enjoyed this and actually maybe experiment with it. And if you experiment with it, comment below and see if it's working for you or not. But again, shoot it at your own risk. It's kind of fun to mess around with, honestly. It's a good little hack. Just add some more excitement to shooting on your phone, at least for me. I'll switch over to the Moment app if I'm not shooting in it already from the native app, and you know, see what the raw image will look like when I start editing it. So pretty fun, and I've tricked a lot of people on my Instagram stories. I actually have once. They thought it was like 120 film. Just saying. All right, see you guys.